Greeting and welcome to the Intensive Success Growth. I'm your host, Nishant Sharma. Please give warm welcome to our guest, Howard Rankin. Howard Rankin is a wiser communicator, helping authors to enhance their wisdom, credibility, and influence. Welcome, Howard.
Thank you so much, Nishant. It's great to finally meet you and be on the show.
Okay, let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Were you surrounded that inspired you to do what you do today?
Well, that's an interesting topic. So when I was younger, way back when in the last millennium sometime, in school, I was really into the arts. I like writing and really saw my career perhaps in that field. But as I went through high school, writing didn't seem to be at that time a terribly promising career. And so I switched into another interest I had, psychology, and I became a psychologist. And, was very successful as a psychologist, did that for many years, was very well respected. And then in 2012, I did something that was really uncharacteristic of me. I'd never done this before. I had a very seductive client, and we worked together for about 3 years doing therapy, and then we stopped. That was fine. She asked whether she could come back and just come see me, not professionally, but just tell me how things are going, and just chat. And I said, that's fine. And so we did that for about 4 years. And one day when leaving my office, she kissed me, and it rapidly went down into a very brief, very consensual relationship until I came to my senses a couple of days later. And about a month later, I got a call from the licensing board to say that somebody had filed a complaint against me for sexual misconduct. And to cut a long story short, 6 months later, they revoked my license to practice. And that was a very interesting, to say the least, situation for me. It was in the newspapers. And so here I was, a very well-respected member of the community. And now I've gone from this paragon to a pariah, and shame, humiliation, disgrace. I'd lived in this town for 30 years. As I say, was well known. Now everyone thinks I'm a disgrace. What am I going to do? And it was a very interesting and challenging moment in my life. Unquestionably, the most challenging moment in my life. I was angry. I was very angry with myself. I wasn't too happy with the way the board had operated in my case. There was lots of stuff they wouldn't tell me. But I won't get into that at this point. So I was faced with this. And at some point, after a short period of anger and revenge, I said, no, I got to stop that. I got to stop that. If this were to turn out to be the best thing that ever happened to me, what would it be? How do I make the best of this situation? And it was a pretty dire situation. Fortunately, my wife understood what had happened and was very supportive and caring. So that was a huge, huge difference. Obviously, I'm out of a job. This is all over the internet, so I'm not going to get a job. And at that point, that's when I was fortunate enough to be at a time in 2013 where there was a freelance sites were popping up all over the place to help people find freelance gigs. And I started my career then as a freelance writer. And it's been an amazing, amazing journey. Met amazing people, just thrilled to be able to help them. Many people tell their stories, reestablish myself in a new profession, get my self-respect back, earn money. So it was really an amazing experience, and has been. I've just written a book about it called Falling to Grace. The Art and Science of Redemption, which is aimed to help people who find themselves in that situation of being shamed and humiliated and disgraced. What the heck am I going to do now? And feeling horribly lost. The purpose of writing the book was to share my journey and what that means for people in this situation. So that book's just come out, featured in the May edition of Psychology Today in the US. So it's been an amazing journey, and I've learned a lot from it.
What are your top 3 success secrets that other can model from you?
In a way, it's not really a secret. I think it's authenticity. I think it's honesty. And it's humility. One of the reasons why I have done as well as I have as a freelance writer, my background in psychology and neuroscience is very helpful. And so there are a lot of people like coaches writing books on self-help type topics, but they don't have the depth of expertise, knowledge, history, research that I can bring to the table. And I wrote a book on leadership with one guy a couple of years ago, and he said, Howard, you make me sound a lot smarter than I am. And that's my point. I can bring in the psychology, the research, the history of the research, if you want it. And again, that's where I think the humility comes in the sense that I would tell people, I'm here to help you. I'll give you ideas and what have you. You can say, no, Howard, I don't want to do that. That's fine. I just want to present you with things that you might work for you. I don't have any ego, accept it or not. That's fine. I'm trying to make you better by what I offer. And I think humility is really important. One of the things that I learned on this journey of redemption was when I told people, like I have just told you and your listeners, what happened to me. The biggest response I get is, thank you so much for being honest. People don't expect others to tell them about their dirty secrets. They don't. And, being in shame and humiliation and disgrace and being cast out, connection then is really important because you think everyone hates you. So that connection is important. And what I found was when I was honest with people, I said, look, there's something I need you to know. Here's what happened to me and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of the times, wasn't actually that relevant because as a ghostwriter, my name wouldn't appear on the book or necessarily be acknowledged, but I wanted them to know. I wanted to be the person to tell them. And as I say, and it probably cost me 2 or 3 gigs or what have you, but I just want to be authentic with people. And I have found that when you are really appreciated and you feel good about it. I don't want to hide secrets from you that you might need to know about me. So that was a really big lesson. So I think authenticity, honesty, and humility are really important in when you display those things. In my experience, and I have clients all over the world, but in the world that I work in, that is so appreciated.
Okay. So how do you find your ideal client?
Yeah, they come to you. When you first start out, we would have a really great conversation. They talk about their book. I'd ask them, some standard questions. Why do you want to write it? What's your purpose? And there's no bad purpose. People, write for different things. And I want to understand that. And again, a lot of the time that really builds a nice, authentic friendship from which then we can work. If we don't have that, it's going to be a problem. I'm trying to capture your story, which means capturing who you are. And if we're not connecting for whatever reason, that's not going to work. And, the vast percent, 99% of the time, it really does work and, develop a really great relationship. Once in a while, for whatever reason, you come across somebody where that isn't happening. And at that point, it's best to say, you know what, I think you probably better find somebody else to help you with this, but a lot of the time it's the development of a great friendship. And communication is the key. If somebody wants to write a book, I need to know a lot about them. So they need to tell me about their book, their ideas, their content, their history, their stories, all of that. And the way that I actually do that is, with video conversations, which I then record and then go through, and then I create content from that. And it's a wonderful experience. It's just like getting to know somebody really well in the drama, if you will, of their lives.
Great. So how do you start your day?
How do I start my day? I'm typically up early in the day, and I look at, here are the things that I want to achieve today. Now, one of the nice things about doing this, as I've been doing it for almost 10 years, is that I work from home and I have my own schedule. Yes, a couple of these corporations that I work with, we have sort of weekly team meetings, but, basically I set my own schedule. And that's you have to be self-disciplined, but it's very liberating, because I know when I am most productive for different things. I know that, particularly mid-morning to early afternoon is good creative time for me. And also late afternoon into mid-evening also is. Middle of the afternoon, not so much. Okay. So I know how that works. And there's physiological reasons for that. Human beings typically have a down cycle in the early afternoon, which may or may not be exacerbated by what they've eaten or how much they've eaten at lunchtime. But energy does tend to go down, which is, why the British have tea, and, why South Americans have siestas. But, 3-4 o'clock is not an ideal time for me. And so that's typically when I actually exercise. I'm a fairly big exerciser. I was a jogger for a long time. Now I'm more of a walker, jogger. I live in a beautiful location. I'm right near a beach. And so that's the time of the afternoon until it gets summer here, where it gets too hot to do that in the afternoon, then I have to do that in the morning. But I really like the ability to say, okay, I'm up at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, and I'm going to go to bed at 10 o'clock. I got 15 hours today. That's a lot of time. And here's how I'm going to use it, and here's the productive part of the day where I can do the writing. Here's things where I can do more admin work, emails, stuff like that. Here's where I'm going to not do any work at all and get out and move. And there's a lot to be said for the ability to do that in a work environment. You really can get a lot done.
Okay. So what are you grateful for today?
Oh, I'm grateful for many things. I think gratitude is really, really important. Having gone through this experience, I'm grateful that I've met so many wonderful people. I'm grateful for my wife, who stood beside me so lovingly when it would be easy not to do that. I have 2 sons. I'm very grateful for them and family. I'm just grateful that I live at this time when I do. Coming from the UK, if I were born 50 years earlier, I might have had to serve in 2 world wars. I haven't had to do that. Now, my son is in the US Army, but I haven't had to serve. So I'm grateful for the period that I'm in, even though it's got its own challenges. I'm grateful that I live in a beautiful place. I'm grateful that I'm pretty healthy. I'm just very aware of the small things as well as the big things. And I do think gratitude is essential. And it's not just grateful about the big things. Oh, I won the lottery or what have you. No, it's the small things that we take for granted every day. As I say, I live in a lovely spot. It's sort of out in nature. I love listening to the birds in the morning, and watching the bees, and just being in nature is amazing. And just understanding that. And I have become very interested in cognitive neuroscience and how we think and consciousness. So I was a big believer in meditation and mindfulness and stepping outside the usual editors that we have in consciousness to see and experience the world differently. I've always been a bit like that. Even when I was a kid, I discovered some writing I had done that I thought I developed this over time, but no, there it was as a 10-year-old writing about this. And I think that perspective enables you to see many different things and to appreciate them. So yeah, grateful for many things. Grateful for being on your show. Grateful for meeting you.
Okay. So how young are you?
I am 17, but I have been known to be a little dyslexic. So actually, I'm not 1'7", I'm 7'1". That was a joke, Nishant. 71, yes. And interestingly, when you think of age like that, certainly when I was younger, somebody of my age would be almost 1 foot in the grave and pretty useless. I do not see aging like that at all. I really don't. And I certainly know and work with people. Age is just a number and it's what you make it to be. I don't like this notion of retirement. Why would you define a critical age of life which could actually be productive by something that you don't do? Oh, you don't go to a regular job. I like to think of it as rewirement, using your wisdom, your skills, adapting them in the same way that I have into different areas, perhaps being able to do that at your own pace and time and not, have to report at 8:30 in the morning and leave at 6. That I understand, but this is still a time for people, seniors, to share their wisdom, share their experience, and be productive. And I think that is important for mental health. I live in a area that's very, it's very nice, has a lot of golf courses. And when I was in clinical practice, occasionally I would have somebody come to see me and say, oh, I think I'm getting dementia. I retired a year ago and I've been playing golf pretty much every day since, but I just don't feel mentally there. And the reason he doesn't is that he stopped doing all the stimulating things that he used to do when he was working. Right? You got to keep doing it. Now, maybe in different forms, in different ways, different schedules, but you don't stop when you can retire, quotation mark, retire. It's really about, that's an opportunity for many people to be really productive and contribute a lot. So this vision of image of seniors being, oh, well, they've done all their work, now they can just sit around and do nothing. That's not good for them. And that's not what it means, I don't think. Not for me, anyway.
You are not 71 year young. You are 18 year young with 53-year experience.
There you go. Well, I appreciate that. I'm gonna write that down.
Okay.
That's true. That's true. Yes, I like it. That's exactly right. Yeah, and varied experience and different perspectives, and that's, as the wisdom, if you will, that you get, the wisdom that you get from your experience does allow you to see things in a different perspective. Obviously, you're going to see things differently at 60 than you do at 20, and differently at 70 than you did at 45.
So, how can we support you?
How can you support me?
Yes.
Buy my books. That was half serious. I do have a number of books that are relevant. My previous book, before Falling to Grace, about the story I told you earlier, was called I Think, Therefore I'm Wrong. And it looks at what we've learned about consciousness and what we learn about how we, quotation mark, think. And so it goes into that. And you probably know that's been behavioral economics has been a hot topic in the last decade or so. And I'm really still very interested in this topic of consciousness and what really is thinking, right? What really is thinking? So many things that we do, we've so well practiced them that they become habitual, and we don't actually think about them. Something pops into our head. Oh yeah, of course, that's right. And we're not thinking about it, and we haven't generated the thought, which is interesting. I do believe in the mind, body, spirit, the trillions of cells that I think make up effectively what is our subconscious. There's amazing work on that. Great book by Dr. John Leaf, L-I-E-F-F, called The Secret Language of Cells. Is amazing how these trillions of cells communicate with each other all over the body. And Candace Pert, a famous researcher back in the late 90s, wrote a great book called Molecules of Emotion, in which she said the body is the subconscious, and she's right. It can process 11 million bits of information a second and is constantly sensing our environment, internal, external, and then presents to consciousness, here's what we think's going on. Now, that comes into our mind and we think, oh, I thought that. Well, you're aware of it, but you didn't generate it. A difference between awareness and what I call agency, right? And so we get confused about that. So we think just because something popped into our mind, I'm responsible for it. No, but we accept it. And there's some serious implications of that I think are really interesting.
Okay. What would you like to say about your guest experience on this show?
It's been very good. You've been a very patient interviewer, so I really appreciate not just the chance of being on your show, but your questions. I particularly like your contribution that I'm still 18, albeit with a lot of experience. So I like that. And yes, I appreciate you very much.
Okay. What's your final word?
The final word, honestly, is that what I think it comes down to is virtue and value. You know, I think that if your primary motivation and goals are compassion, humility, honesty, respect, authenticity, all of those, about 20 of them that I talk about in my book, I Think, Therefore I'm Wrong. If you're committed to those, you're on the right path. The danger comes when we get sidetracked and focus and become directed towards money, fame, or other things. Those moral values should be the root of what we do. And if they are, you're not going to go far wrong. And if you are going to go wrong, it's going to be for the right reasons.
Thanks, Howard, for sharing your wisdom with us. On the behalf of our team and community, we really appreciate you. Until the next time, all good wishes to you.
Thank you so much.